Greetings and welcome to another Impressions video here at Words About Games, and today we're going to be looking at Through the Darkest of Times. Through the Darkest of Times is a narrative-driven strategy game that puts players in charge of a small resistance group in Nazi Germany, beginning with the rise of Adolf Hitler to power in 1933, all the way to the end of World War II in 1945. You'll have a front row seat to all of the horrors that followed Hitler's rise to power and have to make some tough decisions as you attempt to oppose his fascist regime as best you can with limited resources. As a video game, Through the Darkest of Times is quite a risky proposition. I'm not referring to the setting, themes, or subject matter, but in how little power Paint Bucket Games gives the player. It's by necessity, of course. This strategy game is a work of historical fiction that aims to be accurate to the history of Germany in the 1930s and 40s. You're not given an arsenal of guns and an endless supply of faceless Nazis to gun down on a murder-fueled rampage, nor are you a soldier fighting against the rise of tyranny or oppression. You're simply an ordinary citizen, caught up in extraordinary events, and you've decided to do something about it. You can't change history through your actions. This is a game that eschews the broader goals of a traditional World War II game, beating the Nazis and winning the war, in favour of focusing on smaller, more personal story of survival amidst a brutally oppressive regime. It doesn't hold back either. Through the Darkest of Times sets itself in a much broader period of time than most other fiction set during this era. It's not just about the war. This is a game that's interested in showing you how we got there. It's as much about the rise of hate and how almost an entire nation came to follow Hitler and his ideology as it is about the inevitable conflict. You'll see hugely important historical events: the Reichstag fire, the Berlin Olympics, the massacres, the rise of anti-Semitism, and more. But what Through the Darkest of Times does so well is to make everything personal. This is very much a look at those historical events, and more, through the eyes of someone who had to try to live through them. You'll chat to the kind old lady who bakes cookies for the children in the building you both live in, and find out that she's joined the Nazi party and is being sent to guard a concentration camp. You'll come across the police brutally beating an elderly Jewish man in the street and have to decide what, if anything, you're going to do about it. Because of the personal perspective the game takes, it can be highly affecting, in a way that simply reading or seeing the atrocities in a more abstract sense can feel like you're learning about them from a safe distance. The events are still tragic and horrifying, but by placing you in the shoes of someone living through them, someone who is there, who knows people and talks to them, you're given a more intimate look at what happened. Making choices in this game is a torturous balancing act between ensuring the safety of yourself and your fellow resistance colleagues and trying to do what's right. Stepping in to help the Jewish man being beaten by the police is the right thing to do, but it risks you being uncovered as a member of the resistance, or even your own injury or death. Most of your time will be spent staring at a map, planning missions. There's an intricate, sprawling design to how the strategy elements of the game work. Each of your resistance members have stats, such as empathy, propaganda, and literacy. They also have special perks, usually derived from their backgrounds, such as teachers, social democrats, and more. These stats and perks affect how effective they are at different types of missions. The missions themselves see you aiming to recruit supporters, raise money to fund your activities, keeping your morale up, or acquiring much needed supplies, which can range from paper for making anti-Nazi leaflets to gasoline for Molotov cocktails. Completing these missions provides the foundation for your larger actions, aimed at doing damage to the Nazi regime and hopefully helping to overthrow them. These are typically longer, more dangerous missions that you need to complete in stages, each stage bringing greater risks and greater rewards. While you're doing this, you'll need to avoid being killed or arrested. If a character is seen by a witness, they'll become more recognizable and increase the danger of any mission they attempt. The higher the danger, the greater the likelihood of running into the police or the SA, which can see characters arrested, injured, or straight up killed. Each time you run into trouble on a mission, you're given options to abandon the mission, hide and hope you complete it, or push on and accept the potential consequences. It's a fascinating balancing act that makes for a pretty compelling strategy game. Although it seems quite straightforward, it quickly becomes apparent that there's a lot to balance, and figuring out the best way to proceed while mitigating as much risk as possible had me hooked. What's most fascinating is how futile your actions feel, in the grand scheme of things. As I said earlier, you can't change history. No matter how well you do in 1933, Hitler is still going to rise to power, and all of the atrocities committed in his name will still happen. You don't win the game by clearing the map or throwing the Nazis out of Germany. You win by surviving and doing whatever you can to resist. The motivation comes from the excellent writing I talked about at the beginning of this video, which makes the game's missions all the more meaningful. Through the Darkest of Times is an excellently written look at the history of Nazi Germany. It offers a personal and unflinching look at the horrors of the rise of fascism in the 1930s, thrusting you into the role of resisting oppression with the meagre resources of an ordinary citizen. The choices are tough, and the consequences can be even tougher. It ties its themes and stories into a pretty compelling strategy game that sees you walking the fine line between doing the right thing and survival. It's a game that's well worth your time and attention. Thanks very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, consider sticking around here at Words About Games. Our content includes review impressions of games big and small, a weekly podcast dedicated to discussing the happenings in and around the games industry, weekly opinion videos, reactions, debate-driven top 5 and top 10 lists, a regular Hall of Fame series where we discuss our favourite games, and indie game spotlights. We also stream every Friday and Saturday at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames. Most importantly, have a brilliant day.